Hey class, project I chose to do for this last discussion post was project number 2, the spaceship interface. So I personally chose this project because I saw the word spaceship in the title and it got me interested. So the overall setup for this project is quite simple. As we've done in a prior discussion, this project uses LEDs. However, as you can see here, a push button was added to the circuit. Learning the idea of a push button to signal something was quite interesting. So as before, there are 3 LEDs, 2 red and 1 green. Each cathode is grounded to a common ground, which is on the breadboard, with a resistor in between. In this case, I used 220 ohm resistors. The anode side of the LED is wired to specified pins on the Arduino. Keeping track of which pins you wire the LEDs to is crucial. In addition to that, keeping a clean breadboard and keeping a consistent color scheme for the wires also helps to be organized. I personally like to follow the traditional colors for power and ground, that being red for power and black for ground. For the LEDs, I used green to wire them to the Arduino pins, and I used the blue wire for the push button to pin 2. When diagnosing electrical problems, a consistent color code can be extremely beneficial. In addition, the push button needs to be grounded with a resistor. Alright, let's look at the code. As you can see here, there are 2 functions in this code, the setup and the loop. The setup function is performed at startup. The functions have a void at the beginning because these functions don't return a value. In the setup function, I have 4 declarations for pin 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I also designated pin 2 to be an input and pin 3, 4, and 5 to be outputs. For pin 3, 4, and 5, there will be outputs, and these correspond to the pins that we assign for the LEDs. As you can see also here within the setup function, pin 5 is to receive power, and then delay, and then not have power, and then delay, and then 4 is to have power, and then delay, and 4 is to not have power, and then delay. The reason why I specifically added this to the setup is so that the lights will cycle at least once, and it'll give the user an indicator that the system is working fine. So then now we here have the loop, the main part or the execution part, and there's a switch state declared, and it's going to read from pin 2. Here's a if statement and its corresponding else statement. It has a condition, and the if statement says that if the switch state, which is going to be red from pin 2, if it's low or if the push button is not pressed, pin 3, which corresponds to the green LED, will receive power, and pin 4 and 5, the other 2 LEDs, the red ones, will not receive power. And this else statement means the only other condition for a push button, which is either the push button is pressed or it's not pressed. And in this case, if the push button is pressed, pin 3 will have no power, and pin 4 will alternate with power and no power, and same goes for 5. And of course, there are curly braces to enclose each block of code that has a loop or a if-else statement. So let's see what it looks like when it runs. There were those indicating lights at startup. Now you can see that the 2 red lights alternate. And then when you let go of the button, green turns back on again. All right, thank you guys.